Spatial is a term that everyone in the XR world is raving about ever since Apple's recent announcement. But today, I'm speaking with JasonSpatial, also known as Jason Harrison, in today's episode. Someone who has long been working and discussing the spatial realm way before it became the cool moniker to have and to talk about. Jason shares his energy and his knowledge about Unity in the XR world and the untapped potential that he's found along his journey and during his tenure. Hello, tech friends, and thank you for tuning in to Emerging Technologies in Business, where we take a deep dive into different technologies that are impacting businesses today and in the very near future. I'm your host, Brock Riney, and this podcast is brought to you by Kincannon XR. Let's talk tech. So here I am with the wonderful Jason Harrison, also known as JasonSpatial. Jason, you've been in the XR industry for a while now, and we connected by you opening up your email to review resumes for those that feel stuck. Personally, I thought it was a great thing that you did, but tell me a little bit more why you decided to go this route and what came out of it.
Yeah, the short answer is I'm crazy. The response was amazing, and really, I've kind of adopted this mission of really inviting everyone to come in and be a part of the XR industry. I think it's really easy to look at some of the folks who've been around for a long time. Like, there are people who have been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, and a lot of people don't realize that XR has even been a thing for that long, and it wasn't called XR, but the technology is the same. And it can feel uninviting when you see people saying, oh yeah, I had the first headset, blah, blah, blah. And you feel like, I'll never be like that person. And I don't want people to feel that way. And so I'm really trying to make it, hey, this is a party for all of us. I've recently started calling it a fast moving but very long train that you can get on at any time.
Yeah.
And so kind of in a way to help people through that, I wanted to say, hey, I've been looking at resumes for a long time. I've been a software developer. I've been a manager. I've hired and all that stuff. Let me look at your resume and give you my thoughts and see if I can help in any way. It's been really interesting. I expected a bunch of people who are relatively new to the industry, relatively new to software. And I did get several of those. Overall, I think I ended up with over 40 people who took me up on that. And I think I only had it open for a few days, but I also got very senior level people as well. A couple of folks who actually work at Unity sent me their resumes. I have people who have a number of master's degrees and like all kinds of diversity in the people who said, hey, I'd love it if you would take a look. And they've been very thankful for the advice and the thoughts that I've shared with them. I am actually, at the time we're recording this, still working through the list. I finally decided to just pop open a Loom, pop up their resume on my screen and talk to them about it with it on my screen. And that's been working out really well.
Love it. I love that idea too. And what a nice thing to give back to the XR community too. Just being candid, I wasn't in this XR community 3 years ago. Everything that I've learned to this point all started from there. And I think it really comes down to that 100-hour rule, right?
Yeah.
18 minutes every day, 365 days out of the year. You're going to be more competent than 95% of the human population.
Yep.
It's all how much time you put into it realistically.
Yeah,
So you,
totally.
as a Unity certified expert, tell me what has been your biggest failure and your biggest successes while working in Unity.
I'll be honest, my biggest failure, and it's personal, I feel like I've let myself down by not staying more committed to it. Like you just said, that 100 hours, you can feel like you've gotten somewhere by putting that initial effort in. And I wish that I had consistently continued to put that effort in so that I could be more capable than I am today. To be honest with you, I know there's a lot more that Unity can do that I haven't quite tapped into. Even though I am a certified expert, that only means that I know some things, but I certainly don't know them all. And so I think that's one of my biggest failures, is just not sticking to it and kind of putting a little bit of that energy into it more consistently. But at the same time, it's such a powerful tool that you can have relatively quick successes as well, by putting in, sort of uh, intense effort for short duration. You kind of, I've done a number of game jams, and that's kind of very short but intense effort. And you come out of that with a thing that people can actually play. And that's some of the most enjoyable parts of it for me. I actually streamed on Twitch for a while as well, doing Unity development, and having people come into the chat and learn things from me is a very fulfilling feeling for me. So that's part of the success, I guess, is that I get to share my interest in it, my energy for it, and help people learn new things as well.
I definitely tell you not to beat yourself up, right? There's two different types of people in this world. There's givers and takers, right? And takers tend to be the ones who are going to be at that top end echelon, and they're only concerned about their own lives, right? They're only concerned about what they're doing. You're not that type of guy. I know, I've already met you in person. Like, you're a giver. You want everyone to succeed around you. And like that's
Definitely.
a big deal, right? So don't beat yourself up over the fact that you haven't been like the grueling guy that wants to run through the wall for everything Unity based. Like it's good that you give back to this community because you care about what the community looks like in a whole, right? It's not just about
Absolutely.
you. And that's a big difference, Jason. So and I've seen, like, I've looked at your resume. You've worked alongside of Fortune 100 companies. You're an XR technologist, man. And like, my question for you really is like, how do you see companies leveraging XR to transform their business processes as of recently, based just on your experience?
Man, there's so much. Companies are doing a lot of really amazing things, but where it really is shining right now is in the areas where safety is a concern, where costs for travel or office space or things like that are a concern, where uh, processes that really need to be followed with precision are concerned. Those things really, companies are really finding a great deal of value in being able to create simulated environments to practice those processes, to practice those safety procedures, to not put people in jeopardy in doing so, to save money by not having to send people all over the world for, meeting for product design and things like that, and bringing them together. And those are all some of the easy, like obvious ones right now that you just read about the successes in that a lot right now. Um, where I feel like there's going to be an explosion at some point in the near future is going to be in sales processes of for companies who have things that they already spend time trying to create a visualization for you. Like if you're going to build a house, somebody draws up a plan and
Right.
has to mock up a 3D rendering and show it to you on a 2D piece of paper a lot of times, right? There are some more advanced builders and other commercial construction companies who are already embracing the immersive technology to do this too. But I think more and more we're going to see companies who um, what I relate it to is I was around on the when the internet wasn't a thing yet, and then it
Right.
became a thing. And there was a time when businesses said, "I don't think I need a website." And then a few years later, every one of them thought they needed to have a website. And I think that XR and probably AR in particular is really going to integrate into business processes in that way, where they're saying today, I don't really know how that would work. But when you show them, here, I can show you how your product can be placed in your customer's house and help them see how it would fit and how it would feel and spatially orient it with their space, how that helps your sales process now, how that makes it easier for people to make a decision and things like that. I think the ability for companies to embrace that is going to explode over the next few years, especially as we get more tools that don't require a programmer to make that a thing.
100%. The more that we get this Apple Vision Pro into everybody else's lives, the more companies are going to realize, oh crap, if we haven't done this already, we're already like way behind.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I agree with you, it's going to be a flood of folks that are going this way. So, a question for you. I myself have never dipped my toe into Unity. I've downloaded it. That's as far as I've got. Just being honest with you. It's on my computer right now. I'm still an evangelist. I'm still a true believer in XR, but What would you recommend for somebody like me to start to begin creating content in Unity?
Unity, you can do so many things with it. We read every day about where it's being used in motion pictures, where it's being used in architecture, where it's being used in the military, etc. And that can feel very overwhelming. And so I generally advise people to kind of pick a niche, pick an area where you want to start. And if that's augmented reality, if that's virtual reality, whatever it is, pick one, because the fundamentals of the engine, the fundamentals of 3D manipulation and things like this are going to translate as you grow and try new things. But start with one. And frankly, the one I've been recommending the most lately is augmented reality, because Unity has what they call a pathway at learn.unity.com. They have an AR pathway that is actually for people who don't even want to code or don't know how to code yet. It uses something called visual scripting, which allows you to drag and drop nodes on your screen and then connect them to each other to create a flow of data and information, and create augmented reality experiences, including face filters and placing objects in your space and things like this. And it's a complete course essentially that's free,
Wow.
and it gets people started with augmented reality. And you deploy that to your Android or iPhone, and you can easily get started and learn much of the fundamentals of the engine doing it that way.
That is super interesting. I had no idea that even existed. And you and I talked at AWE. It was great meeting you in person. And one of the things we were talking about is that it just seems like the tech landscape is consistently evolving, like constantly evolving. One thing about today and in the near future is that this just change is just accelerating, right? It's just getting faster and faster.
Definitely, yeah.
And with that in mind, how do you personally stay up to date with the latest developments when it comes to XR tech? Are there XR workshops or courses? And I know you have a course of your own. What are the things that you would recommend?
First of all, I recommend people just get over the idea of sleeping. That's a waste of time. Um,
Not a requirement. It's just
no,
recommended,
it's
right?
recommended. Yeah, no, completely kidding. Definitely do get your sleep. Uh, and again, with people who have a career that isn't necessarily in XR yet, and they're looking for a way to get more involved or understand more of it, I think it helps again to pick an area of interest. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to keep track of all of the things. So if it's augmented reality, if it's virtual reality, if it's Apple Vision Pro, whatever it might be, kind of start to pay attention to that news. And frankly, what I have is a number of Google alerts set up for phrases that I think are relevant to that sort of thing. And then Google will send me an email once a day or a week, I forget what it is now, about any news that relates to those things. So I have them for augmented reality, I have them for mixed reality, virtual reality, etc. And that way I don't have to actively go out. I have a little bit of a feed coming into me in that way. Um, I think that the other thing that I've done recently, and you may have seen this too, is joined the VR AR Association. So this is just a worldwide association of people who are VR or AR experts, as well as people who are not, and they're trying to understand it more. They're trying to understand how it relates to their business, how it relates to their lives, etc. And the VR ARA has a number of meetups every week that are free to attend, and they're linked on their website, which is, I believe it's thevrara.com. So that's another way you can just plug in and kind of see what's going on there. If you are in an industry, a particular industry, and you're thinking, how does my industry adopt AR or VR? I can almost guarantee you somebody in your industry is talking about that very thing in those meetups. So that's another great way to plug in. Yeah, so there's a handful of thoughts that I have about that.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I actually just got back from speaking at a VRARA event in Nashville where they just had their first live event. And I would highly recommend just what Jason said there. If you're in the XR industry or even just interested in it, see if there's a local chapter around you. In fact, even if there's not, you can go join all these different VRARA meetings and you're going to find like-minded people in everyone wants to talk to you, right? Everyone
Absolutely.
wants to share
Yep.
knowledge because we all started somewhere and someone helped us out along the way. So don't feel like if you walk in the door and you have no idea what you're talking about that you're going to be embarrassed. You won't be. Everyone there is there to help everyone else grow along this XR journey.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. And there's a lot of people who are there who are just like you, brand new, don't know anything,
yeah,
trying to figure it out, and so you'll find lots of diversity in there.
100%. Have you seen any sort of like common misconceptions or myths that businesses sometimes have when it comes to not only leveraging XR technology, but maybe even integrating XR technology? Do they think that it's going to solve all of their problems, or what have you been seeing so far with the companies you've been working with?
Well, I haven't met one yet that thinks it's going to solve all of their problems. I think there's, the companies who are engaging now are the ones who have um, optimistic leaders. They are there saying, we're not sure, but we're going to give it a shot. We're not 100% positive this will return, but we're going to try. Obviously, they've got other metrics that they're putting in place to make sure that that's not a complete foolish gamble. But I think more commonly, especially when you start to look at companies who are smaller, companies who are what I call homegrown. They've kind of started in one area and never left that area, and that area isn't a high tech area. They're going to be suspicious. They're going to be thinking, I don't know if this is a thing. Kind of like I was saying earlier about businesses and websites. There was a time when they thought that same thing, like the internet.
Right.
Nah, that's not a thing, right? And then pretty soon it was. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And it's understandable completely. Technology can be um, frightening. It can, if you don't know it, if you don't understand it, it can feel foreign. And so it's a very normal reaction to have. Which is why I think we, as XR professionals, have to do a great job of going out and actually demonstrating these things, a lot of times face to face, saying, hey, I know this is weird, but check it out. There's a lot of people, a lot of companies in my area that make and build sheds. So I have a backyard, it's a blank slate. If I had a tool that I could walk out with my iPad and place one of your sheds in my backyard and see what it would look like that would help me buy.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
think these guys who build sheds don't necessarily think that way. But if I walk over to them and say, hey, look, I built this demo, let's do something with this, they would get it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think every business is slightly different, right? Some are adopting XR tech at a higher clip than others, and some of them are facing different business challenges. It does make adopting XR solutions a little bit harder. Like you were saying, for someone who's building sheds, they may not have that technology budget to be able to see
For
the
sure.
forest through the trees at the time. They're just thinking like bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. But those types of businesses, they're going to get worn out over time because someone's going to come along and do it better. It's like
Yep.
every sports star always says there's somebody young that's coming in who's younger, faster, and smarter than me and looking to take my job. So for those
Yep.
companies that aren't leveraging this XR technology, truly, in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to be irrelevant if you don't figure out a way to embrace technology, in my opinion.
They're going to find their competitors passing them up for
Yep.
sure.
Really, really fast.
And so yeah, it's going to be challenging. A lot of companies today make it on their reputation, on their network, and things like that. And that stuff's great until your competitors can start delivering way faster than you can because they're leveraging technology.
Right, and then not only faster, but even cheaper because they're leveraging technology at the level that they're not doing it.
Right.
Now, Jason, I have to get your opinion on this because this came out after the fact that we got to meet each other. But what was it? 3 days after we left AWE, the Apple Vision Pro got announced, and I
Yeah.
really wanted to get your take on it. Being a Unity developer, there's been some swirling questions that I've been hearing in the background about Unreal maybe being uncompatible as of right now. And to be fair, when we first saw the Oculus Rift launch, it came with an Xbox controller. So, this isn't the last iteration that we're going to see, but I'd
Right.
love to get your take on it in the compatibility's sake.
Well, I think there's something we have to keep in mind, and that is that Tim Sweeney and Tim Cook have been going at it for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Unreal and Apple have been at each other's throats for a minute, so I don't think there's uh, uh, a desire to make nice just yet. And the other thing too, and this is something I do get to address every once in a while because people ask me about Unity versus Unreal for XR in particular. And, the fact is, Unity has been a leader. Yes, Unreal is getting better at doing XR things, and of course, they can do very high quality VR things and have been for a long time. But as the broad XR industry is considered, Unity is always one of the first platforms that a new device or a new software platform will adopt. They're almost always the first tool that a new device will have an SDK for and things like that. So it's absolutely not unusual for Unity to be the first here. In fact, my first AR applications were using Unity because they made Apple's AR Kit library available first. And so this is very normal, and it's not unusual for Unreal to come in later. I think even Microsoft for the HoloLens first started with Unity, so it's very normal. But I also think that there's that other factor, which is the sort of ongoing battles and lawsuits and things that may discourage Apple from adopting Unreal in the very near term.
Totally makes sense. Final question for you, Jason. Now, I'm a big fan of stop motion skeletons fighting with swords and shields, but I found it hilarious that when we met at AWE that my producer Matthew had no idea what the movie Jason and the Argonauts was. But I wanted you to tell me really quickly about your newsletter, which is called XRgonauts. And it was just funny that he didn't have any idea what that meant, and I thought it was great. Because every time when I was a kid, I was sick, it seemed like that movie was on TV.
Yeah, it's funny. I find people either get it or they don't, and then when I have to explain it, it's like I told a bad joke,
Right, right.
And so I've been exploring the edges of that for sure. But my name is Jason, and of course, Jason and the Argonauts is a great mythical story. And so for me, being a person in the XR field, I felt like this is a perfect combination, XRgonaut. In fact, my wife actually came up with the term, and so I thought, well, this is very clever. Sometimes it's too clever, you know. But yeah, I mean, the newsletter is just a place for me to share my thoughts, share things that I'm finding relevant and valuable to the community, and again, my community is often people who are looking to either get into the field or who are in it and trying to look at ways to advance. And so it's a great supportive community with a lot of people who are just trying to figure out how to embrace this opportunity and move it along. And lately, I've been talking primarily about my cohort program, which is letsbuildxr.com. And really, it's the same kind of thing. It's a very deliberate community built for people who want to level up in Unity and XR. And by the time this episode comes out, we'll probably have finished this current cohort and maybe another one. But so far the feedback has been fantastic. People are loving the positive vibes and just the support that they feel by having a bunch of other people who are, really the goal is to get people together to say, I'm going to commit to making some sort of progress every day, no matter how small it is. Because like you said, if you're making that consistent progress over a period of time, you're going to find yourself leaps and bounds ahead of the people who stopped, right? Or didn't even start or gave up or whatever it is. So there's so much opportunity in this field that I wanted to, again, provide a way to support the people, coach the people who are trying to make it happen. And there's some fantastic projects. People are learning how to use source control, all of these things. And so we're having a great time with it.
I love it. So you can find Jason Harrison on LinkedIn. Look him up. I definitely recommend subscribing to the XRgonauts. And if you haven't had a chance to go look at letsbuildxr.com, I really highly recommend doing so. Jason, was there any other place on social media you wanted to point our audience to?
Those are the big ones. Again, you can find me at JasonSpatial.com. That will link to all the other things. XRgonaut.com is really just a placeholder or a sort of a clever place for the way for me to define what an XRgonaut is. But yeah, JasonSpatial.com is where you'll find me. Let'sBuildXR.com is where you'll find my cohort program.
Fantastic. Jason, again, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your insights with our audience. I do want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsor, Kincannon XR. The future is XR, and if you're working in the XR world or you're looking to step into the future with XR, Kincannon XR is here to help you bring your XR dreams into reality. So regardless if you're developing your own XR application or just looking for a helping hand to take an idea to the next level, Kincannon is here to help. You can reach out to Kincannon XR by emailing them at inquiry@kincannonxr.com. And then, of course, you can also find our podcasts on social media as well at ETIB Podcast. And if you like this episode, if you like Jason, take a quick moment, hit the subscribe button, hit like, go send an email over to Jason so that you can be part of letsbuildxr.com as well. And then pick on one of these videos that are going to pop up above mine and Jason's head here on YouTube and watch another episode of Emerging Technologies in Business. And with that, I've been your host, Brock Riney. We're going to talk some more emerging tech next time. Bye, everybody.